What's up, Internet? You're tuning into episode 171 of the FlipScreen Games Podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined today by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Ken Hicks.
What to do, y'all?
Yo, what's going on, buddy? We're here for a special extra episode of the FlipScreen Games Podcast. Of course, you know, now that we've switched to that monthly format, you guys have a big special monthly episode that'll be coming in at the end of February. But we're here for an extra one today because, of course, we just got done watching the PlayStation State of Play for February 12th. We took about 15 minutes after we just got done off the live stream to collect our thoughts and walk some dogs and catch some drinks, and we're ready to chat. So we're going to do this the way we've been doing it the last couple event breakdowns, where we're going to just I've got a list pulled up over here from Screen Rant of all the announcements that happened at the show. We're going to run through them in chronological order, and we'll slow down to talk about the announcements that we're excited to talk about. So if you have watched one of these event breakdowns in the past, you're going to be dialed in on what we're doing here. And if this is your first time, well, if there's a game that we end up skipping that you wanted to hear us talk about, you can, of course, write in with a comment. So we'll kick things off. We got a look at Monster Hunter Wilds for the first at bat. This is a nice long trailer. It was, obviously like the fifth or sixth time we've seen this game at an event like this. So not, a ton of new information aside from them getting into reveal of a new monster. And then they talked about their roadmap basically for the game post-launch, because it's out in 16 days, I think. It's on the 28th.
Yeah, 2 weeks from Friday. And really at the end of the day, we talked about this briefly on the stream. You're not a Monster Hunter guy. I'm not a Monster Hunter guy. But we both fully acknowledge that these games are good. They're just not good for us, right?
Yeah.
And I will say that what I appreciate about that announcement, if you're into the series, knowing that you don't just have the game coming out in just over 2 weeks, but you have free updates coming in the near future this year, at least
spring and summer,
updates.
Right? What the next two updates are. I think that inspires a lot of confidence in that you'll have stuff to do.
Yeah, and I just appreciate that kind of transparency coming from any gaming company. So, tip my hat to Capcom there.
Yeah.
So Capcom's on a roll. We'll get back to Capcom a little bit later once we talk about some other gameplay for another game that I'm far more excited for than Monster Hunter. But Capcom has just been killing it. So
yeah, they've been in a good spot
crazy
these last couple of years for sure.
Yeah. So then the next game that came out though.
Yeah, the next one was Shinobi Art of Vengeance. This was a new game. First reveal. We got the release date, which it was in March, I want to say.
Yeah, it's coming out relatively soon. Let me see here. I just remember the entire time I'm like, oh, is this a new 2D Ninja Gaiden? This looks cool. And then I was like, oh,
really
it's
nice
not.
art style. It's super stylish, really, really clean animation. It had a pretty aggressive soundtrack. It just overall it had a good vibe to it. It was a fun looking 2D action platformer for sure.
Yeah, and it comes out in August, so they did give us a release date. So
cool.
That's definitely something I'm going to keep my eye on. Recently, I've been getting into more and more indie games. Balatro has taken over my life. Completely different type of game, of course, but also Dave the Diver, which we'll be getting into a little bit later. Spoiler alert. So I'm all about these not 100-hour AAA video games that I can play and beat in 2 weeks or less.
Yeah.
Unless it's something like Balatro where you just kind of play it indefinitely, because
that's a dangerous one. Yeah, that's a forever game.
Yeah. I didn't even know how to play poker before that one, but I got to say.
I know, me too. Now I'm I can actually play now.
And then after that, we had Sonic Racing Crossworlds, which is if you're not getting a Switch 2 and you want an alternative to Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, people love these games. I've never really played the Sonic Racers, but I've heard that they're very good. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's I said on the stream, it's kind of a shame to have a new one coming out right around the same time as a new Mario Kart. Whereas, if it had come out a couple years ago or even, earlier before that announcement, I could see it maybe, catching more people. But, yeah, I mean, these games are supposed to be great. This is cool.
Yeah, it's,
Um,
nothing to say there.
while I get us into our next one, pull your mic a little bit closer. You're like off on an
A
angle
bit
on it.
closer.
Yeah, there you go. Just get it right up on
There
you.
we go. Okay. All right, there we
So,
go. Thank you.
yeah. So then the next one we got, this was unfortunately, I guess, a little bit spoiled because there was a leak that happened earlier today from GameStop that there was going to be a new Digimon game coming out, and we got to look
Classic
at
GameStop.
Yeah, not the first time they've had this happen. We got to look at Digimon Story Time Stranger. I thought this looks really cool. I think these like Digimon story games like definitely have their fans. This is the third one now, and I've known a couple of people that really got into them. I think
They're great games.
yeah, like how much you like them is like your mileage may vary based on if you're like a big turn-based person, if you're a big Digimon person, but if you're either of those things, they are pretty great. So this is pretty sick.
And I'll say this one looks like at first we weren't even sure what game it was until we actually saw the Digimon come up. And we're like, of course, we should have known this was Digimon. It got leaked. But like this one, like graphics wise, looks leaps and bounds better than the last few that have come out, the last couple, I should say.
Yeah, agreed.
Being able to ride your Digimon in the open world, the game, like they didn't really show too much like of the combat. I'm curious if they're going to go the route of turn-based or if they're going to go more like the original Digimon World games where you don't directly control the Digimon, you just kind of give them commands and they go, and then you kind of like set it up like that.
The second one was a turn-based battle game, though. That World 2 was more akin to these games, actually.
Yeah, so if I were to guess, it would be turn-based. Looking at the trailer, actually, I'm actually more confident that it's turn-based.
And just based on what we've seen in the past, I think that's probably a safe bet. But we'll see.
Safe bet, but regardless, like I feel like Digimon does not get enough love. And recently, like over the last few years, like Digimon's like they released 2 new movies, like a sequel to their OG Digimon and a sequel to season 2 that I'm going to watch in the near future. Haven't gotten around to it. They just announced a new anniversary music video project. Like, Digimon and the card game's popping off. It's not popping off quite as much as the One Piece trading card game, but it has like a solid dedicated fan base. They're having tournaments. So like, it's not a bad time to be a Digimon fan. I'm just saying. So if you haven't played a Digimon game in a while and this one turns out to be pretty good and you want to like dip your toe back in, go for it. Like that's not super, super hype, but it's definitely something I'm keeping an eye on.
Yeah, it's one I have an eye on for sure. Like it's one I could see being a game that is like, oh, this is really exceeds our expectations and we're really excited about it. I think worst case scenario, it's probably like a middle tier turn-based RPG, which is something that you and I will probably both still enjoy.
Yeah. But, if nothing else, just like an opportunity to play as Omnimon and get my goat back on my screen. I'm here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Pull that mic a little bit closer again. It feels like it's gliding away from you.
Let me do this.
Yeah. That's better. You want to get right up on there. This is a brand new mic for Ken, so he's still learning where the cone is.
I am sorry. Let me see if I do this.
Yeah. That's much better.
There we go.
All right. So then next up, we gotta look at Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which apparently was previously announced. I hadn't seen this one before. This looks sick as hell.
I'm surprised you have not paid attention to this. It's like, what was that game that they called the first quadruple A game and took them like 10 years to come out?
It still hasn't come out yet. It's
that pirate game.
Oh my gosh, it's the Xbox title. I can't think of it. It's Perfect Dark?
No. It's a pirate game. It's that quadruple A.
No, yeah, that's the Initiative is what you're thinking of, was the one that they said they were making.
No, I'm thinking of Skull and Bones.
That was not, they never said that. Did they? I think you're crossing your wires.
They said the first quadruple A open world pirate game.
Really?
Like
I don't remember them saying that. All right, fair enough. There you go.
Yeah, no, like I'm looking it up. They said that about a year ago.
Okay, fair enough.
Then it comes out, and this was done by Ubisoft, I think. Yeah, after the success of that one really good Assassin's Creed game, and they said, well, you can't just hop onto other ships and like take it over because that'd be too complicated. But you know what game you can do that in? Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. It's like, hey, yo, listen. I got into the Yakuza series with 7, with Like a Dragon. I have yet to play the Infinite Wealth game yet, but I do own it. I just haven't gotten around to starting it. So, needless to say, this one's going to go back to the more action type of gameplay, not turn-based like the last two games. So, this one should be pretty cool. Pretty cool. And I just like how progressively wacky these Yakuza games are getting.
That's always the thing
like,
that
has
has
been wacky.
Got me
like,
interested.
Now they're
in
like
them.
pirates.
Like they have a very, very like fun, bizarre energy, and I've always appreciated that. Yeah, I've never gotten into one before though. I'd like to though.
Yeah, play Yakuza 7. Like you'll get into that one. I got the plat on that one. Put over 120 hours into that one. So
there you go.
It is, and it's also, since that's the first one with Ichiban as the protagonist, it's not a reboot, but it's a good jumping off point if you don't want to play 1 through 6 or 0 through 6 first, technically.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's what I do. But while we're on this Yakuza hype train, while we're hyping up the Yakuza, Dave the Diver DLC crossover with Yakuza. Let's go.
Yeah.
That is
the latest in the long line of insane Dave the Diver DLC crossovers.
So let's see. Thus far, Dave the Diver has crossovers with
Godzilla,
Balatro, Godzilla, Yakuza, Slade. I think, what was it? Dredge.
Yeah,
was that other indie game?
That was the other one
they collabed with. And I'm here for it. I played Dave the Diver for the first time last month. We talked about this. I got my friend invested to the point that he was thinking about buying a Switch just to play Dave the Diver on the go.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, this announcement won't be number one on many people's list, but since it's so fresh in my head, we have that to look forward to. And then at the end of the year, we have the full Dave the Diver and the Jungle expansion coming.
Yeah.
So this would be kind of like a little stopgap. So if you like Dave the Diver, you're in for a good year.
Or if you haven't, if you're like you and you're getting into it now for the first time, it's like there's going to be just so much extra stuff for you to do, which is really fun.
Yeah. Like, listen, Dave the Diver, it's like $10 or $15, worth it. Play it. Whatever console, doesn't even have to be PlayStation. Any console, just play it.
Beautiful,
worth your time.
So then next up, we got another look at Splitgate 2, and we got a release date for the alpha for this one. This was that Portal multiplayer shooter that we've seen a couple times now.
3 teams of 8, which is cool. Portal shooter, like Portal shooter. I'm not huge into first-person shooters. Competitive shooters aren't really my thing. I got into Marvel Rivals, but that's a third-person game, so that's kind of the exception, not the rule for me.
Yeah, those kinds of games are a little bit more forgiving too, because it's like you can play a support role and stuff like that. This definitely seems like it's going to be more of like a, like CS:GO, like Twitch shooter kind of thing.
Yeah,
but it looks really good. Like I think it looks really sharp. It's a smart idea. Yeah, we'll see. I like the 3 teams of 8 thing too. Like 3 teams is interesting. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, it kind of gets a little more of a tug of war type situation. Yeah. Or like if you come in third, you can't just blame your teammates. Like you suck. But I digress.
So then next
that
up
includes me.
Next up, we got to look at WWE 2K25, and there's like a new island that's like a metaverse kind of thing. Stop trying to make the metaverse happen.
We don't. Do you watch wrestling, Pete?
No, I'm not. I am friends with a lot of wrestling fans. I have like it's I'm like I get invited to wrestling shows. That's
I see. Yeah.
I'm that kind of guy, but I'm not. I've never been a wrestling guy myself.
Yeah, same. So I feel like we're not qualified to talk about too much more with that one. So we're just gonna keep it moving, keep it pumping.
Next up, we got Borderlands 4. We got a new trailer for this one. We got the official release date as well. There's gonna be a whole other state of play just about Borderlands. So quite a bit of information on Borderlands this time around. This is just one that I've never been a big Borderlands guy. It's coming out on September 23rd, so if you are a Borderlands person, you got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, so moving on, Borderlands 4, you know what it is. Split Fiction.
This is the next game from Hazelight, Joseph Faris's team. It's another EA Originals joint. I think this game looks really fun. I don't really need to see more of it. I'm ready to play it, and it's out really soon. This is the one that's out in March, right?
Yeah, so this game comes out March 6th. So it's coming out like soon.
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks from tomorrow, actually. Um, so I'll take that.
Yeah,
I
I'm looking
did
forward to
not
this
realize
one.
it was coming out that soon. I'm at the point where I'm already sold on it. Of course, they're going to need to market it more in these upcoming 3 weeks. My recommendation: they have like this whole team has yet to miss like A Way Out. It Takes Two, Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. Like they
Yeah.
haven't missed.
Yeah,
They have
I've
yet to
enjoyed all their
miss.
games to varying degrees. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
So I would just say, like, hey, if you're not sold, then watch a trailer or two. If you're already sold, don't spoil yourself because these are all creative narrative games that keep you wondering, like, yo, what are we going to do next? What's going to be the next world's gimmick or the next level's gimmick? Like, show me nothing more. I'm good. Sold. Everyone buy it. And something I'm not sold on, but I'm a little bit more 50-50.
I'm
but you seem
cautiously
pretty excited.
optimistic on this one.
Cautiously
Yeah.
optimistic.
Directive
Yeah.
8020 is the next Supermassive Games joint. It's it's the fifth game in the Dark Pictures anthology, but it is the first game of the second season of the Dark Pictures series. So the Dark Pictures anthologies have been very hit or miss. Some of them have been good. Some of them have been like weak. I really love Until Dawn. I really loved The Quarry. I go into every one of these games with a lot of optimism, and I base whether or not I jump into them at this point on kind of the general like pulse when previews come out and everything. Because yeah, like they've not all lived up to the kind of mark that they are capable of. So I think this looked really cool. It was a good showing. I like the premise. It's like a alien infection,
Alien type thing.
sci-fi story. They're like trapped on a ship. It checks a lot of boxes that I think are interesting. We'll see if it comes together.
Yeah, I was actually low-key hoping it was like them making a story-based Aliens game just based off the trailer. I was waiting for like an alien to bust out the guy's chest at that one point. But
yeah, I just really was hoping that it was another new game and not here's the next Dark Pictures, because like, and hopefully that this season changes that, because I like the idea of the Dark Pictures anthology, but I feel like the clip at which they've created them, it's just like they just do not all come together. And
let's see, the last like game in the Dark Pictures anthology though came out in 2022. So it's been a couple of years.
They did do The Quarry after that though. So The Quarry came out last year? No, 2 years ago?
No, it came out in 2022. So like, it's still been about 3 years since that.
Since The Quarry?
So, yeah, I'm looking it up now. It came out in June 2022.
Really?
Now I'm curious because these are all
does not feel like
story-based, choose your own adventure horror games, right?
Mm-hmm. That's their whole bag.
So like, why is it that The Quarry is dope, but the ones in the Dark Picture anthology are not dope? Like, is there like a difference in budget? Do they push out the
the Dark Pictures anthology games are made on a quicker clip. Like the kind of thought with the Dark Picture anthology is that they would make shorter games on a like quicker timeline so that they could put out more stuff. And yeah, I think that some of the ideas clearly needed more time to bake. But like The Quarry was dope. The Quarry was really good. I thought that was on the level of Until Dawn.
Okay.
So maybe they figured it out. We'll see.
Maybe.
Next up, Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. This was a new trailer. We got the release date for it. This was not the first time we saw the game, but this was like the first time that we got this much information on it. And this one's coming out on June 13th. June 13th.
Like, the way I see it with Five Nights at Freddy's, it's like, if you like Five Nights at Freddy's, you already know you're going to play this game. If you haven't gotten to the franchise yet, this isn't going to change your mind.
Probably
I don't see that to talk down on the Five Nights at Freddy's. I personally never got into it, but like, if it weren't for Five Nights at Freddy's, I wouldn't have met Amber, so I do owe that series a debt.
There you go.
So I respect it all the same. So
I'm
glad it's still going strong.
I think to your point, it's one of those things where it's kind of a known quantity at this point. It's like they've all been good, and I think it's just like if you're in, you're in, and if you're not, maybe this is the one that you roll the dice on, right? Because it's been a minute since the last one.
Yeah.
And the movie did just come out, so that might have got
I did enjoy the movie, though.
some new fans and stuff like that in the mix.
The movie was good.
The next one that they showed off, I was very interested in. This was the Midnight Walk. This is a game. This wasn't the first time it was revealed, but it missed my radar. And they described it as like a cozy horror game. It's both on PlayStation 5 and PSVR 2, as well as Steam, coming out on May 8th. And the whole game is made with like real life clay and is like a full claymation title. Horror games,
so good.
Not usually my jam, but this just looks so cool. And like, I'm so fascinated with like the production of it and how you take something as complex as claymation and then put it in, like a loosely, things in video games are dynamic. So like having dynamic animations with clay is really impressive to me.
Yeah, like it reminds me of that one game that the creator of Final Fantasy made recently. It was like, I don't know, it's like where it had like a really unique, what was it? Like art style. And like at the end of the day, like even if the gameplay is mid, if you have a unique vision, I'm going to give it a fair shot. And that's how I feel about this. But I will say one thing that's a little bit funny. I'm Googling photos of the Midnight Walk, and it's like a picture of all of these creepy, like claymation type dolls mixed in with the charity, the Midnight Walk, which is just bright pink, which I kind of find ironic.
That is
off topic, on topic, but
very, very different aesthetic. Yeah,
very different. Just like seeing them side by side, like all these smiling faces, and then whatever the fuck this is.
Yeah, these little creepy clay pot man.
Yeah.
So then the next one was Darwin's Paradox, which I thought this one looked really cute. This is a like action platformer where you play a like a mimic octopus. So it's like there are segments where you're underwater and it's like 2D and you can like shoot ink and stuff to like create cover and like have these like stealth opportunities. And then there are these other portions where you're like above the water and you can use his mimic ability to like blend in with the ground and stuff like that to avoid enemies. And then there's like some standard kind of like platforming where you're like using the octopus limbs and stuff. Looks very creative. I love a character based platformer with some personality. I think this looks really cute. We'll see if it comes together.
Hey yo, close enough. Welcome back, Octodad.
This is his son.
Octo baby.
Octo baby, yeah. So then next up we got Warriors Abyss. This was a first reveal and a shadow drop, so this one's available right now. This is pretty cool. It's a roguelite kind of take on the Warriors games. It's like a top-down, like isometric perspective, and you're doing the like Warriors thing of like you're fighting these giant hordes of enemies in waves and, with the framing of a roguelite. It's one of those things that it's like, oh yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Kind of weird that they haven't done it before.
Yeah, and I'm looking up now, since it was a surprise drop, how much is it? Is it like a $30 game? Is it a $70 game? Like I'm
guessing it's a budget title, if I had to guess.
Let me see. Okay, so it looks like it's $20 for the base version.
There you go.
$70 for the Ultimate Edition, which is just like extra costumes.
That's a lot.
And if you buy the game, yeah, that's a jump for some costumes.
We're getting wild with these Ultimate
costumes.
Editions. That's a little bit crazy.
Yeah, and let me see what else here. It says that if you buy the game by like March something, you get a free costume. Before March 14th, you can get a free costume. So it's, I don't know. How do you feel about shadow drops in general? Do you prefer to know about a game weeks in advance so you can get hyped for it? Is the fact that this shadow drop make you more curious to try it sooner rather than later? Like I know that there are certain games that are shadow drops that are wildly successful. That one game that came out on Xbox like a year or two ago is the big one that comes to mind. But
I think it really depends on the title. Like I think if it's a title that like it's like an arcadey kind of experience and it shows really well, then I think it doesn't hurt. Like, I don't know how much a pre-release trailer and like a long wind-up to be like, it's a Warriors game, but it's a roguelite. Like, you know, it's like how much of a marketing cycle does a game like that need versus like being shown at an event where there are a ton of eyes on it and then being like, now you can play it, right? I think if you're really confident that the game is good and that people will pick it up and enjoy it, then like you can kind of rely on word of mouth to get the game circulating, which that's really how most games rise to the top anyway, is people really like
word of mouth.
Like you look at Balatro, right? Like that game didn't need a marketing cycle to become the best-selling game of or the best-selling indie game of last year. So yeah, I think it's like, this to me feels like one of those ideas that's like very clearly communicated. So the idea of being like, yeah, like go and jump in and play it and like decide for yourself whether you like it. Like it can work. I don't know. I feel like there are a lot more examples of shadow drop games that I don't think about that often than there are ones that like, oh, like it really set the world on fire or whatever. But I think it's something that can work. It's not something I'm like inherently out on, but
and also for $20, it's like that might be cheap enough for people to roll the dice.
Exactly. Right. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you had seen that game like 3 times before it came out, would you have been more inclined to buy it? Probably not. Right. Like, it's like, you're probably in on that idea or you're not, you know?
True.
So then next up, we got a double shot of Onimusha 2 Samurai's Destiny. That got a kind of extended view at it. I don't know if did we get a release date on that one?
Yes, it comes out this year, but I forget.
I don't have it in front of me. Yeah.
I want to say it was like August.
May
or
23rd
or like
is what I'm seeing on DSO Gaming. Nintendo Everything is also confirming. Yeah, it looks like it's May 23rd. So that one's right around the corner. And then Onimusha Way of the Sword is the new Onimusha that's coming out. And we got
that looks
a
fire.
proper look at that. That looks really tight. Yeah.
You see, when we were doing the stream, I talked about it a bit. Like, I don't like the gameplay trailers where they just like cut from the action every 3 seconds. It's like, okay, I know it's an action game, but are you showing me the flashy bits and then cutting it to something like lame or whatever?
It's tough to orient yourself in it.
Yeah. Like, you don't get a good feel of it. This trailer was gas. This trailer's fire. Capcom, they are been on a hot streak, and I hope they are not letting their foot off the pedal. Like, do not let up on the gas. Like, now, admittedly, I've never played an Onimusha game. When the Onimusha games were coming out, I was playing the Devil May Cry series as a whole. I never got into it, but it was on my radar, but I just never got around to it, right? This game, I'm 100% going to play.
It's really good. And I feel like it is a genre that there is an audience for these days. You know? Like, this kind of like high-octane action game like can really connect these days. So, yeah, I mean, I hope it comes together. I know there have been a small but passionate group of Onimusha fans who have been asking for a new game for a long time. So I hope it pans out.
Yeah, and the Onimusha fans, they are loyal and they're not another which, you know, I appreciate. I appreciate them not just being annoying.
Speaking of annoying fans, we got another extended look at Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. Then you're making a face, which is exactly why I'm razzing you Metal Gear fans, because it's like you guys are like, I don't know, Kojima's not involved. I think it's bad. It's like, I don't know, guys.
It's not that I think that it's bad because Kojima's not involved.
I'm just teasing.
It's just kind of like, it's why. Where's the heart in this? Like, why do we?
What does that mean? What does that mean, Ken? Where is the heart in it? Do you say that about any other remaster, or are you just being a Kojima fanboy?
Metal Gear Solid's different, dude.
No, it isn't.
You ever play Metal Gear Solid?
No, and I don't need to, and I hate that. That's bullshit. It's not different. So what? It's a masterpiece that should never ever be touched, and the only way you should play it is the PS2 version?
No, you can port that game to other consoles, right? And I fully support ports, right? The thing with Hideo
no, that's what I'm
Kojima
saying.
games,
Is like that's the only legitimate way to play it then forever is to just straight up port a PS2 game and not touch it.
So I'm trying to put this into a way that you have you played Death Stranding?
No.
Okay. So I'm trying to put this in a way that makes sense. Kojima games are not just games or experiences, right? They're kind of like a snapshot into like the time frame and the era in which the game comes out in terms of like features and implementations and like the way you solve certain puzzles. Like one of the most popular things, like when you're fighting Psycho Mantis and Metal Gear Solid 1, it can read the stuff that's on your memory card and says, "Ooh, I see you like Ape Escape." But like the game is full of like those little things where it's like kind of crafted around the console it came on to a certain degree.
Yeah, but do you want but like, if Metal Gear is going to survive as a seminal piece of like video game, like it's a seminal work that people like look at as one of the best games of all time and go back to, it's like it needs to be playable on stuff that's not the PlayStation 1, you know? Or in this case, the PlayStation
remaster
2.
It. Just like remaster and put it back out again. Like do a Metal Gear Solid collection like they already did. Like they did like 1, 2, and 3 recently.
Right.
That's just the original PlayStation versions. And like the one thing that they're doing with this one, instead of having new voice actors re-record their audio and things like that, they're just taking the audio from the original Metal Gear Solid 3 and like maybe like digitally touching it up a little bit and just like using all the same actors.
Like they probably have, if they, because you know the original recordings are probably uncompressed. Right, so they're probably just using them not compressed.
Yeah. So like they're using all the original recordings and things like that, and it just kind of seems to me like, hey, we're going to take Metal Gear Solid 3, increase the graphics, and keep everything else the same.
Why is that a bad thing?
Like, what is the point?
To expose it to a new audience that are not going to play a PlayStation 2 game like 30 years later. Like, you know, like,
why not?
Because they won't, and you know why not. And also, I think that's like the most hypocritical take I've ever heard from you when I know damn well you've played plenty of remasters of other games by other directors, and this is my whole beef with Kojima fans. Like, you guys act like he is the only person that makes high-quality art video games, and he's not. He's not. He's not. All right? Like, we need to allow other game developers to be treated with the level of respect that we seem to reserve for Kojima. His games are not untouchable, and if you want 40 years from now people to be talking about Metal Gear Solid 1 through 3, they need to be playable in a way that is accessible to new players.
1 through 5.
Whatever. Fine. 1 through 5. And also, let's, like, you guys need to relax with that 1 through 5. 5 is not even a finished video game. And everyone's like, it's a perfect masterpiece. Any other developer put out an unfinished game, you'd lambast them and rake them over coals. But Kojima did it, so it's perfect and classic and masterful.
So 5 is an unfinished game, not through Kojima's fault.
I know it's not his fault.
Konami,
I know.
Right? But I think the reason we give 5 a pass is because 5 is a prequel that takes place after 3, but before 1.
Great.
So we kind of just like look the other way.
All right.
Like 4 is technically the ending, but
I'm putting a pin in this. We can debate the merits of Metal Gear when this game comes out, and we both had a chance to play it. We'll see. We'll see how we do. We'll see how we do.
I'll get Seth on that episode for backup.
Absolutely not. I don't need you people do not need backup. All right? One Kojima fan can argue with 5 non-Kojima fans until the other 5 people in the conversation give up because they don't want to talk about it anymore. All right, let's talk about Hell Is Us.
I was about to say, I guess you're looking at this like Metal Gear Solid thing as your personal Hell Is Us Kojima fans, but yeah, that was a bad joke. So
Hell is Kojima fans. That's fair.
It's fine. That's all I got for Hell Is Us. It's fine. It's I don't know. It's not doing anything for me. It doesn't look bad. It's just like, you know what I mean?
I feel like I don't know. I feel like I don't have a ton of like, it feels like a bunch of stuff mixed together, and like I don't feel like it has a real clear sense of identity for me. It's the whole like, it's like there's this magical element and you have these like, you're the guy in the field, there's the guys in the chair, and you have the drone. I feel like I'm not super following it, but I mean, if I'm honest, I think it's a little interesting how much you literally said what in the Hideo Kojima is this? And again, it's like if it said a Hideo Kojima game, we'd be picking it apart saying how genius it is and what could all this mean? The simplest. So I'm just like, I don't know. For me, I feel like this is a game that is not shown super well because it feels like it's very obtuse and like a little impenetrable to me right now.
Yeah, this game kind of feels like they assigned the developers a task. Make a Hideo Kojima Souls-like. That's what it looks like.
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
I don't know.
I
think about that one.
I feel like it's a game that like I need to hear more like conversation from people who are playing it. And to me, this is a game that like I've seen it a few times and I still don't have a good sense of like what the tone of it really is and like what it feels like moment to moment. So it's like I feel like this is a game I will be like very illuminated in what it is by previews, and trailers have mostly just raised more questions for me than given me answers. That said, it doesn't necessarily look like it's my kind of game anyway, so whatever, we'll see.
Yeah, I'll say this. When the game comes out, I'll keep an eye out on the reviews. If the reviews are dope, then I'll gladly eat my words. I'm not anti that game. I'm not saying I'm not interested.
I'm saying
I'm not hype.
I just feel like I don't think it's showing super well, and I don't think you're off base to point that out.
Yeah.
But I mean, if y'all disagree, I'm interested to hear like what is it about it that is sticking out to you, because it could just be it's not, the tone is not catching me. Speaking of games that are not quite my bag, but I know were fire, Lies of P got an announcement for a new DLC called Overture, which looks like it's, like it looks like it's one of those like meaty DLCs, right? Like Elden Ring's Shadow of the Erd Tree, where it's like, okay, like this feels like a big chunk of new story rather than kind of like, something like the Frozen Wilds in Horizon, for example, which is just like, oh, it's kind of like a new area on the map, right? Versus like this feels like maybe it's like
additional story, like a
like a 0.5 kind of storyline kind of thing, yeah.
A third semester in Persona type expansion.
But I guess that's even more akin to the Horizon example, because like that is more like it's more game, right? Not this is like.
No, that's whole extra 30 hours of story.
Yeah, but it's more. It's more of the same story. Not like Erd Tree is when you boot up Elden Ring, you start Erd Tree, right? Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like there's like, I feel like those are two different kinds of DLCs. Like
the sequel DLC and then expansion DLC.
Right. Like Spider-Man was like that, right? Where it's like, oh, like the city that never sleeps is like, that is more of this is a story between the stories than it is a couple extra missions that just get added into the main base game of Spider-Man. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think so. But I think with that example, like, because Persona added like a whole extra ending to the game, like an entirely different ending, an extra 30 hours.
But it's not a new narrative though. Like it ties to the narrative of Persona 5 is my point, right? Like
but like so does Elden Ring. Not granted, I haven't played Elden Ring. Shoot me. But does the Elden Ring DLC not tie into the narrative? But also, yeah, I shouldn't speak on things I don't know about.
My understanding is that Erd Tree is its own launcher. Like it's a new story. Yeah, it's a whole new map. It's a whole new map with 70 new weapons, and yeah, so it's like that's more what I'm talking about. It's a new map of game that you like have a fresh file on rather than
but it's a new map with a bunch of new lore and story. But in order to get to the new map, it's not a separate launcher. You have to progress a certain point in the game and do something,
and then unlock it
to play it, and then you go to the new map and the original map in the new section that they unlocked.
Okay,
so.
I think we're getting in the weeds in a way that's not.
Yeah, you're right.
Useful.
It doesn't really matter. The DLC looks cool. If you're into Lies of P, then you should be
Which, I
looking
mean,
forward
most
to it.
people were. So,
Yeah.
um,
Let's not get too off topic here.
next,
Dreams of Another.
yeah, I thought this looked really cool. This is the next game from Pixel Junk. This looked really, really interesting. It's like a very like what's the word I'm looking for? Like esoteric, like it's very like surrealist a little bit. It's like you're in this like dream-like kind of environment where everything is made of these like groups of voxels, and you're using different kinds of firearms to like blow open doors and like blow things apart that then like recontextualize all the imagery and stuff.
Which
Which
is a cool concept. You have to destroy to create.
Yeah.
Which I think the developer came on afterwards.
and that was like
that type of thinking I appreciate.
there was like a quote of that, like as you got to the end too, where it was talking about how like destruction is part of creation and things need to be destroyed to make way for new things. And yeah, it's very like art house game, but I like a good art house game, so I'm interested.
Yeah,
in this
no.
one.
I always appreciate these type of games to like flesh out a showcase. Like show me something new, something fresh, something pretty.
And just, something that's like just a little bit different than what you get from, your standard AAA games or even like the like more familiar indie stuff, right? It's not a platformer. It's like it's experimental. It's a little bit weird, and I like that.
Yeah, you like that. You'll also like Death Stranding. Anyway, next game.
I don't know. Do we need a game about delivering packages and drinking Monster? I don't know that we do.
Yes, you do. Next game.
Days Gone Remastered. This is kind of an interesting one. Like it doesn't not make sense because it's like I think the original Days Gone, like it came out to kind of like middling reviews, not a ton of fanfare. It feels like it was just like it kind of got passed over. But then like there was a very, very vocal fan base that was like, no, this game is great. And why did it get, like why didn't it get the same attention that a Last of Us or a Horizon or any of the other PlayStation, Ghost of Tsushima. I think that group has gotten louder over time. Like when it came to PC, more people got into it. More people talked about how it was really good and really cool. The idea of wanting to, bring out a fresh coat of paint version on it for PS5 to hopefully introduce it to yet another new audience. You will get to do the remaster on PC then. That'll hopefully bring more people in. It just feels like them trying to maximize the return on investment for a game that they feel like probably underperformed. And also, we know Ben was working on another game that just got canceled. So, like, giving this as a thing to kind of, like, put people on in the meantime while they start pre-production on their next game, it'll help save people's jobs. So that's...
Yeah, which is great. And one thing that I do want to acknowledge, one of the things the original game was criticized for, it was known to have technical issues with lack of polish, unstable frame rates, and frequent and long loading screens. If you're playing
all
this
things
in the
that'll
PS5,
be solved by it being on PlayStation 5.
Like this, if a game's like fundamentally great, but it's poor frame rate and loading screens and some bugs that I'm sure have been fixed, like this game can go from a 7 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10 just by fixing those few things that they can do.
Or even like an 8, which is like, that is the type of game people will be like, oh, cool, let me try it, right? And I think there's also the benefit of like it not being as on top of The Last of Us, right? Like that was, I think, part of this game's problem was that people were like, we don't need another zombie game, The Last of Us. And it's like, okay, like, we're kind of like removed from the like zombie trend a little bit now. And I'm wondering if people will be a little bit more forgiving to it.
Yeah, and also the last thing I'll mention, they're also adding new game modes. So even if you played the OG one, if you want to get back in and get more,
there's like
it's not just a remaster.
You can play like with permadeath, which is cool. You can do there's like a survival like wave clear kind of horde mode, yeah.
Which I always love those modes in these type of games.
Same. Yeah, I love a good horde mode. So yeah, it's pretty cool. This is a game that like I was really interested in it in its pre-release coverage, and then like I didn't play it when it came out because it kind of had that middling response, and Steve ended up playing it when it came to PlayStation on Steam Deck, and it was like one of his favorite games the year he played it. So it's one I've always wanted to go back to. So hopefully this will give it a chance for maybe a little bit of reappraisal, and maybe it'll find even more of an audience because there's certainly a very vocal group of people that appreciate this game quite a bit.
Yeah, so I'm about it. I'm about it.
Next up was
No,
Stellar
Stellar-
Blade.
It's a DLC with a gotcha cell phone game. Next.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like,
So then, no. Yeah, if you want to talk more shit, go ahead.
all I'm gonna say is like Stellar Blade has a lot of DLC. They just did DLC with like Nier. I don't know why it's getting so much DLC. It seems like they'll come out with DLC every 3 months, but I'm not against it. So, but with this particular one, I could not give a fuck. Next.
Yeah, that's fine. I kind of tuned out when they were talking about this. I'm gonna be honest with you. So then they were talking a little bit about games that were gonna be coming to the what is it called? PlayStation Plus catalog, right? And
or PlayStation Classic catalog, or something like that.
it was both because they're two
Yeah.
different. Yeah. So either way, it's a little bit confusing. But they talked about a couple games. One of them was just kind of reminding people that Lost Records Bloom and Rage, which is the new Don't Nod game, who are the creators of Life is Strange. This is their new like chapter-based, story-driven, like game about young people that love music. So if you're a Life is Strange fan, this is one I would definitely check out. It's going to be a day one release for them, which is really cool. I've been really looking forward to that one, and it's coming out on the 18th. It's in a couple days, so that's
Not
really
even
hype.
a week.
No, really hype. And then they talked about two other games that were going to be coming day and date, which were Blueprints and Abiotic Factor. Abiotic Factor was the one that was the 6-player like space survival crafting game for like up to 6 players, and we were commenting on how it like had kind of like an early like PC look, because like this very like jerky, like intentionally like like very like toy like animation, really cool, really cute. I thought it had a really great vibe. And then Blueprints is a mystery puzzle game that takes place in this mansion, and it got a lot of attention when it came to PC. It's going to be coming to PlayStation now, so there you go.
Yeah, those are games. Well,
This
Abiotic
fucking
Factor
guy.
was
Any
kinda
game,
cool.
that Hideo Kojima didn't work. Oh, that's a game. That's a game, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's
That's
a video game,
I guess.
right?
I guess.
Like I do like Abiotic Factor. That game looks kind of clean.
I'm not delivering packages with a baby on my back, so I don't. Do I even want to play this game?
You also have a gun in that game.
You just said you don't even like shooters before. This guy, he keeps changing his mind.
It's a context. Am I hiring this gun to defend my baby boy? Then yes, I do care.
Okay, so then we got to look at Tides of Annihilation. This was like another.
That game looks clean.
It was another big like action game. It had kind of like a bit of a Shadow of the Colossus kind of vibe, I thought, where it's like you're like climbing this big monster, and it's like London is there and it's destroyed, and yeah, I don't know. Looks kind of cool.
Have you ever played the game Chaos Legion on the PlayStation 2?
No.
It did not sell well. But it was a action game by Capcom. And one of the main things you could do is that you can unlock different like monsters that you summon to fight alongside you, and you do all these different cool combos. So this gameplay reminds me of like a combination of like Chaos Legion with Shadow of the Colossus and like Forsaken, which I know Forsaken a lot of people didn't really care for, but I rocked with it. I thought it was cool. So I am keeping an eye out on this one. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Something I found about it too, between when we did the live stream and then recording this, that I thought was interesting is the studio is called Eclipse Glow Games. They're a new studio that's based in Chengdu, China, and they've got investment from Tencent. And they've got a team of over 100 people, and the crew has worked on games in the Yakuza franchise, For Honor, Assassin's Creed, Persona, and Prince of Persia. So it's like pretty cool to have like a like a new homegrown studio from another. That's like a big thing that I think is kind of like maybe underreported in games lately, is like how many new studios you're seeing come up from countries that have not had a big history of game development or AAA development at least. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, we'll see what comes of it. Very interesting.
You had me at Yakuza, Persona, and Prince of Persia. You got people who worked on those games on this one.
Yeah.
Hey, good. You have my curiosity. Now you have my full attention. Let them cook. I'm here for it.
So the next up, we got Metal Eden, which this is the one that I thought was Marathon, the Bungie title. It is described on the PlayStation blog as a sci-fi adrenaline rush first-person shooter. It's coming out on May 6th. I thought it looked very sleek. It had a cool cyberpunk neon kind of style. Not really my kind of game, but we'll see if it pans out. I feel like the market for this kind of game is really dried up in the last couple of years. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's what was that game that got delisted last year after being out for 2 weeks?
Concord,
yeah. This has more drip than Concord for sure.
Yeah, it looks cool. It does look very sleek, but I don't know. I just don't think there's
so many shooters.
I don't think there's a lot of space for games as a service games right now. I think the market is oversaturated, and that
Wait, is this a games as a service game, or is this just a single player game?
No, it's a multiplayer game.
Is it?
Isn't it? It looks like it's like an arena shooter, isn't it? Am I wrong?
Hold up. Let me look this up real quick. I might have. Because
I'm pretty sure this is
other game.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, it looks like you're it doesn't look like it's PvP.
Honestly, I can't get an answer from the PlayStation blog, which is making me question it now. It definitely looked like a multiplayer game to me, but
so this one part of the trailer looks like it's multiplayer, but every other part of the trailer looks like you're fighting different types of generic enemies. Not generic, but let me see.
It does. It's interesting. I'm finding that they look like they're a bunch of former CD Projekt Red and Techland developers, which is pretty cool. So
That's interesting.
we definitely got some.
I will say this: if I finish watching your trailer and I can't find out if it's a single or a multiplayer shooter, then the trailer didn't do a good job.
It's not ideal. And I cannot find anyone saying whether it's one or the other. But I'm seeing a lot of comparisons to Doom, so maybe you're right, and it is a single player game.
Yeah, if it's a single player game, I'm here for it because then it stands a shot. If this is like a games as a service type, John, it's cooked. And that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's my whole thing. I mean, if it's a single player, then I think it has a much better opportunity of. Yeah, it doesn't. I can't.
I feel like the only games as a service games that really broke out in the last 5 years are Marvel Rivals, rightfully so, and Helldivers 2.
Sure, but even
especially
that, right?
Marvel
it's not as healthy as it was when it launched. So I feel like it's really tough to get a game like this off the ground and then keep it rolling. I hope it is single player because that would be great. But honestly, the fact that we didn't know and we both thought it was a different thing and then couldn't find an answer does not bode super well.
Yeah,
but
not a good look there.
That's okay. Let's wrap up here. We got 2 more to talk about. The next one was Mind's Eye. This is a game that had been previously announced, but we got a good look at it, and it was very interesting, I thought. It was not quite what I thought it was going to be. Initially, it had kind of like a military shooter vibe, and then as you get into it, you're seeing that that's actually just I think the framing device of the narrative, and it looks like it's a very high
person shooter cyberpunk type.
Yeah, high tech
thing.
Science fiction, but near future science fiction, right? Cyberpunk, James Bond spy kind of elements to it, not space sci-fi. And it's funny, when we were watching it, I remember you were making the comment of feeling like the trailer was maybe too cinematic or that it was cutting too often for you to get oriented in it. I didn't agree. And now reading about the team behind it, I think I I feel like my opinion has been validated. Not say that you're wrong if you still feel that way, but
Yeah. So who's behind this game?
so
Let me see.
Leslie
I'm pulling this up.
Benzies. It was they were like, it's a Leslie Benzies game. He came out and talked about it. I wasn't familiar with who that was by name, so I went to go look it up. And he was the lead game designer on Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption. So I said it looks like it plays like those games. I think I'm spot on that that's exactly what this is. I think it is going to be a game that has roughly that kind of like third person, over the shoulder, like run and gun kind of gameplay. In this like very, Born Identity, James Bond, high tech spy
I guess, like,
thriller kind of narrative. I think this sounds really interesting. There's been a lot of folks from the bigger like AAA studios over the last couple of years that have had a big game like that go break off on their own and try to get a project like this off the ground. A lot of them, have been in active development for years. Some of them don't come to fruition. But I think the more that you can see a world where somebody who is like, I was the director of Red Dead Redemption, use their name power to then go get a new IP off the ground somewhere else. That's really important. And I thought this showed pretty well. I'm interested in this one.
Yeah, I guess what I said is I got a grasp of the type of gameplay it is, like, third person over the shoulder shooter. Interesting concept with the story, and decent world building, right? I guess I wanted to see a little bit more, like, aside from over the shoulder shooting, like what's the gameplay loop, like what's the vibe?
I think it's that and driving. That's what it looked like, right? Because they showed a lot of you like whipping around in that like hot. Like,
if it's just that and driving, like, you're in this futuristic city, like, how do you use this tech? Like, how does the tech affect like the day-to-day gameplay aspect? How do you use the different types? Because this is clearly like a dystopian futuristic world with a lot of futuristic tech. How do you use the tech to elevate the over-the-shoulder shooting to the next level? How does the world impact the gameplay? Because I just got shooting and drivings with a decent bit of world building. That's what I mean when I say it didn't show me like a lot. Like, I got what it showed me.
I think that's such a
but what it showed me was just,
I don't know. I maybe I'm just
now,
like,
granted, this was pretty recently announced and there isn't a lot of gameplay. This is the most amount of gameplay we got. I may be being too hard on it. I don't even think this is coming out this year. I think
no. I think I don't think it has even a window on it yet. I would guess it's 2026 or later, probably.
Yeah, it says we can't wait to share more information in summer. Oh wait, no, it says coming this year. No.
Oh, it does say it's coming this year? Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so like,
sorry, and to say we literally are recording this right after the live stream, so a lot of this information is like actively getting published while we're recording. So anything that we're getting wrong, website. I apologize, but
yeah.
Okay, this is on the PlayStation blog. All right, sweet. Yeah, so that means it's probably out this year unless it gets delayed.
Yeah, it says more information in summer, so it wouldn't surprise me if it gets delayed, like, especially in this day and age.
You did talk about, like, though, right, the next time we would likely hear from PlayStation will be if either another State of Play or, like, a PlayStation Presents over the summer. So it could be that that's when you get a big, like, here's 10 minutes of unedited gameplay and we answer all your remaining questions and it's out later this fall. Or it could be that it's going to get delayed and we're starting the drip feed now. But I think that's the problem, like, and maybe this is I'm more forgiving of trailers and stuff like that because it's like we're reviewing marketing beats, right? And it's like I have the understanding that it's like you cannot answer every question in one trailer, right? Every game, when you put out like the first trailer, there are going to be unanswered questions. There's going to be systems that they're not going to explore. I think about how little I knew about a game like Metaphor ReFantazio before I actually played it. And I saw 3 trailers for it. And there are dozens of systems in that game that it doesn't explain or walk you through or any of that stuff. And it's like, yeah, you get there when you get there, right? Like, I think when you're talking about a game that was recently announced and you are trying to sell me on vibe, tone, world building, and a general overview of like what you will be doing in this game is driving cars and shooting guns, it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That to me seems like reasonable.
Fair enough.
Especially when you consider how many. And again, I'm sorry, but I'm going to throw shade at your boy. I had to watch 80 minutes of Death Stranding footage before I learned a single thing about how that game played. And I had to argue with you and Seth on multiple podcasts about how it was annoying that we had only seen 20 minutes of CGI footage of Norman Reedus, and you guys argued with me that was actually really sick. So I'm just saying, I just feel like maybe give my man who created Red Dead Redemption a little bit of the benefit of the doubt that you're happy to give Hideo Kojima.
I'm just sorry you don't immediately see the genius,
the brilliance
of Norman Reedus and his Norman fetus.
I'm sorry that you don't immediately see the brilliance of the man who gifted us Red Dead Redemption. So, I mean...
Oh, no, listen, like, the second you told me that, I'm giving this game the benefit of the doubt, right? I'm just saying, like...
We're having some fun.
Yeah, but, like, I don't know. I never played a Grand Theft Auto game. Like, from beginning to end.
That's very funny.
Like, I played, like, bits and pieces of it, but I never sat down and, like, played through a story of a Grand Theft Auto game or Red Dead Redemption.
That's your loss. Red Dead Redemption is a perfect video game.
Yeah.
Well,
I got spoiled about then, but that's a different conversation for another day.
Oh my god, disgusting. That is one of the most powerful endings of any video game. Oh my god, what a perfect story. So we wrap things up with the only big AAA first party, like, here's a brand new announcement game. And I think it was a really cool one. This is Saros, which is the next Housemarque game. It's coming out 2026. It is a new third-person action title that they said builds on what they did in Returnal. The PlayStation blog specifically says it is a new third-person action title that evolves the satisfying core gameplay introduced in Returnal. My guess is that it's going to be just that same gameplay loop where it's the third-person shooter, roguelike, story-driven kind of surrealist kind of game like that. Very, very cool that this is going to be the first game since they were acquired, right? This is their first at bat. They got bought like right after Returnal came out. So that's pretty sick. In the blog update, they said it's the ultimate evolution of the Housemarque gameplay first experience, which is really neat. Sick that they're deciding to work on a new IP, I think, again, rather than just doing a Returnal 2, which I think would have been the safe bet. And the thing that I thought was most interested from me as just kind of like an outside observer is that the main character, whose name is Arjun Devraj, who is played by Rahul Kohli, who I'm a big fan of.
Which is dope.
Yeah, he's, if you are familiar with Mike Flanagan and his work, he was in Midnight Mass most recently. He was in The Fall of House of Usher. He's like a very entrenched gamer.
I know him from iZombie.
Yeah. That was his breakout role, right? He was on iZombie. And I mean, if you're like in the internet media space, like, he is on a bunch of YouTube channels all the time. He's a Warhammer fan. He's a big gamer. It's just cool. It's cool. I'm a fan of him as an actor, and it's cool to see him getting more and more voice acting roles in games, because he was just in Space Marines 2, I think, as well. So yeah, this is sick. It's cool announcement.
Yeah, so it's just like the announcement, right? Just like a little bit, no gameplay, of course, but like the fact that they said it's an evolution of the Returnal gameplay, that's enough to get me speculating and to be excited for when they do show the gameplay.
Yeah, and I think for the first reveal of an IP, you don't show.
You don't want to show too much.
You don't want to. Yeah, you want to, because right now there are literally dozens and dozens of articles going up just based on the name and a couple screenshots of Rahul in engine, right? And it's like, great, that's great. And then in the summer, when it's time to talk about it again, you'll show the gameplay and it'll get another moment, and then maybe we get
and then by the time this game comes out, it would have had close to 5 years of development time, because Returnal came out in 2021.
Right.
Like they've been cooking this up, like taking their sweet time, letting it slow simmer. And I'm here for it.
To your point, the fact that it's like building on the gameplay of Returnal, they also didn't need to, theoretically anyway, they didn't need to start from the ground up. So it's like 5 years of active development on what is a new IP and a new game and world and everything, but not needing to reinvent the wheel. So it's like you kind of have the benefits of a sequel without the it's more of the same, which is, I think, really cool. It's smart, to kind of be like, we have a style of gameplay and it can be in any universe, any character, whatever, right? And you know the Housemarque gameplay style. I think it's cool. It's a cool way to approach it. I really like Housemarque. Like, a lot of their games are not to my taste necessarily, but I have a lot of respect for them as a studio and the kinds of games they make, and them having that like very arcade gameplay like focus is, I think, has always been really cool. Like, and
to make sure the gameplay is tight.
Yeah, and the fact that they're now doing the big AAA thing, but still have that focus and are like arguably the most unique studio in the Sony arsenal, right? Like, they don't make the third-person open world action adventure story-driven game. Like, they have their own style, and they've adapted it, I think, to be a little bit more modern and a little bit more in line with what like the standard PS5 player expects, but not at the expense of their like very unique identity. And I think that they deserve a ton of praise for that. And yeah, I hope this is another hit for them, even if it's not for me. They're a studio that I
Did
really
you not like Returnal? Or?
I didn't get into it. I never tried it because it's just not really. It didn't super speak to me. I'd like to try it for sure.
It slaps so good.
Bring it up. No,
the thing that I
come over and log
Returnal,
in on my PlayStation. Let's play it together. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, no, for sure. The one thing I really appreciate about Returnal too is it was like the first game where I played on the PlayStation 5, aside from like Astrobot to a degree, where I was like, hey, yo, so this is what the next gen's about.
Yeah.
So I had my 3D Pulse headset, and the game was made with 3D audio in mind. And it's a roguelike, but you get like bonuses and power-ups and things like that for killing and defeating enemies without getting hits. So with the headphones on and the 3D spatial audio, I could literally hear enemies getting closer, crawling around me. There are times where I would like literally turn and shoot based off sound. And that with the adaptive triggers, the snappy load times, the next, at the time, really next-gen graphics, Returnal just felt so good.
And I'm
not like huge into shooters, right? I like me a roguelike, but I'm not huge into shooters.
That's my thing, is I don't really like roguelikes. So I was like,
You see, like, yeah, I'll come over and give it a shot.
I would really like to try it. I would really like to try it.
It is a good time.
They're a studio I really root for. And I think it's really cool to see them added to the Sony first party. And yeah, I hope this game slaps. I hope it sells really well. I hope it's another big win for them. They deserve it.
Yeah. But
the
last thing we can mention, that's pretty much all the announcements. But how would you rate this on like a scoreboard, either 1 to 10 or?
I think when you compare this to the standard that's been set by other states of play, I think this is one of the better states of play that we've gotten. I think a lot of times states of play feel pretty underwhelming, and I think this one, it didn't have the heat of a PlayStation Presents. I don't think it had the heat of like a higher tier like Nintendo Direct, for example, which is I think kind of the gold standard that we judge all of these things by. But I think this like very, very much hit the bar for what a average Nintendo Direct is, right? When it's not we're announcing a new Zelda, we're announcing a new Pokemon, there's a new Smash Fighter. When it's not the ones that are like, holy shit, like, oh my God. This hit that bar, I think, because I think it ends on a really big new first-party announcement from a studio that has shown is great and that their last game was a huge hit. So it's like that's something that I think any person who liked Returnal would be excited for. Any person that cares about PlayStation should recognize that that's a big announcement. And then I think for all the stuff in the like lower tier stuff, I think, there is a golden rule that I don't even remember who I heard this. It might have been Gio Corsi from PlayStation. Maybe it was Shuhei Yoshida who said this once, that like one of these events, like if every person that watches walks away with 1 or 2 titles that they're excited about, that's the bar for success. I think if you walked away from this and there's not, 2 or more games that you're interested in, I'd be kind of surprised. I think it had a pretty
well-rounded.
It was a pretty well-rounded event. Yeah, and I walked away with a couple new games that I'm excited about and games that I was already interested in. It, re-engaged my interest or cemented my interest. I think that's solid. That's the most you can kind of expect from one of these events when they don't have something on the level of, here's Wolverine, right?
Yeah. Like let's put it this way. When we go into our Nintendo Switch 2 announcement press conference, and I think it's going to be April, our expectations are going to be higher than this press conference.
Right. So
we expect more from that one.
So maybe I'm judging it higher based on the fact that I go into these with lower expectations, and that's fair. But I would say this sits at a B. Like, it was a totally good, solid presentation. It's not enough to like blow your skirt up unless you're a very, like, if you were like, Returnal is my favorite game on the PlayStation 5, you probably walked away from this being like, fuck yeah, right? If you liked one or two other games, that's an A for you. For me, I think it's a B. I think it's a totally good presentation, and it was very well paced. They didn't waste a lot of time, and I didn't feel like there was a lot of filler. Even the games that weren't for me, they're for somebody.
Yeah, so in this situation, I probably what you consider is like a solid, and you give it a B. I consider a solid like a C or a C plus. So I'm going to give it a C plus, right? Originally I said C, and then I remembered Dave the Diver, so that gave it an extra plus.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like,
it goes to what you said though. Like, there's something there for everybody. Not everything is. There was nothing that made me go, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe they announced this." But there was something there for everyone. The new House Mark game, we knew they were working on something. It's nice to get it confirmed. It was just slightly above average and solid overall. If you were expecting Last of Us 3, then that's a you problem.
That's the thing, is I think that like we don't usually expect that caliber of announcement from these events. There have been a few where they've been like, oh, we're doing like 40 minutes on a specific game, and like those have been pretty hype, right? Like Final Fantasy VII was like announced at one of these. So it's like they have had big moments like that, but like they're few and far between. So like for me, a new Housemarque title is like, that's a big announcement, right? And
yeah,
a couple other really good ones in there. So I think it squeaks by to be a B. But I don't begrudge a C. I think that's reasonable, because it didn't necessarily have, the kind of the. Well, no, I guess I would argue
expectations.
Though, I think Housemarque is a marquee announcement, though. I think it's a B. I think it's a B. I stand by that.
Well, no, like I respect the B. If you said it was A plus, I'd have some questions. But
yeah, no,
B,
that'd
I'll
be
accept
ridiculous. That'd be ridiculous. Anyway, folks, thank you for joining us here on this special episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast. Remember, we are going to be having our first monthly episode of the show in February. Is just a few weeks away. We are going to be announcing the topic for that one next week. So you'll have all of next week to vote on what you want the topic to be for the monthly episode. Right now, we're talking about the potential demise of Xbox. So if that's interesting to you, make sure you let us know. If it's not interesting to you and you definitely want something else, you better write in, because otherwise we're locking that one in, and you're gonna have to wait until March for your next topic. So remember, write into the show, flipscreen.games. That's the website. Head over there. Check out the sister shows. Show your support however you can. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Ken. I'm backwards. We'll see you next week.